One of the most shocking sports stories in recent memory transpired last week because there wasn't even an inkling of it. It just flat out just people were blindsided out of nowhere. And this is the news that Texas and Oklahoma are leaving their conference, the Big 12, and heading to the Southeastern Conference. Now, Texas is the number one revenue generating athletic department in the country. And Oklahoma, I believe, is 8th or 9th. So neither one of these programs, these university athletic departments, are wondering where their next meal is coming from. They're doing okay. They're doing pretty good. Okay. They also were in a league that they completely dominated. They could do anything they wanted. The league would, any rule, it would let Texas have its own television network on top of its, so the conference doesn't have a television network, but it gave Texas its own. I mean, they let these two teams, because they knew how vital they were, have anything they wanted. It still didn't matter. And those two teams have ejected on them now to join a Southeastern Conference that was already a behemoth with names like Alabama and LSU and Texas A&M, but now even more so. I want to discuss this for a few minutes for Pop Culture Tuesday, not from the sports angle, because these teams, I don't think it'll be till 2025. That's when the contract ends. My guess is they'll figure a way to start it sooner than that. But it could be not for another 4 seasons before we ever see those elite teams in that league. Instead, I think there's a broader worldview conversation to be had here. And I think this story indicates that the American worldview has collapsed, like entirely. Like on every side of the cultural divide, it's just collapsed. Michael Knowles and I were just kind of having a similar conversation. You know, that the idea of let's just have no standards. A lot of people on the right, that's what they want to say. We hate the left standards, let's have none. Well, okay, they're still going to do theirs. So they're going to still impose theirs on you, but then you have none. I mean, that doesn't work, right? What happened here is left-wing utopian institutions, awash, drenched in progressivism. The longtime head of Oklahoma University, a former Democrat Senator, David Boren, who passed away recently. Texas, Austin is, considered almost its own community within the state of Texas. These progressive left-wing institutions just taught us again that human nature is not basically good, which is essentially their cardinal mantra. That's the number one assessment of their worldview begins at human nature is basically good. That's how utopia is achievable. Over the last couple of years, the commissioners of the Big 12 and the Southeastern Conference have been working together on a new college football playoff format. And the commissioner of the SEC knew all along, at least for the last 6 months anyway, that they were working on bringing Texas and Oklahoma in and raiding their conference and taking them away, and not a word was said. Texas and Oklahoma provided really no heads up. They just had Big 12 media days last week and just blindsided all of these partners, blindsided them all. Why? Just to make more money. I mean, it's a lot more money, yeah. But it's a little bit like, how many more jobs does Texas need to import before you just turn the state blue because you brought so many blue state voters into your state? And so they're the last 3 points that Beto needs to beat Ted Cruz next time, right? I mean, yeah, it is more money, but Texas is pretty wealthy now, right?
Yeah.
So I guess you just make it wealthier that you get a Democratic governor, and it won't be Matthew McConaughey, it'll be a real Democrat. I mean, how much more money do you need? When is enough enough? Human nature doesn't ask itself those kinds of questions on its own. Human nature is unbridled. I got to go for mine because you went for yours. And so you saw left-wing progressive academia, their worldview collapsed on an institutional level just to pursue more money. Nothing more craven than that. But the worldview on the right, traditionalism, heritage, legacy, it collapsed too. Hey, making more money is more important. Oklahoma just left its fellow member institution, Oklahoma State, on the side of the road. Say it. We're out 5,000 G. Again, these were already top 10 money earners. These aren't folks escaping Honduras to come to America. They just did this for a couple more pieces of a share price. Why? Texas has averaged 7 wins a year this decade. Don't tell me this is about winning the national championship. Texas can't beat Iowa State right now. You're going to be the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th best program in the SEC tomorrow. No. This is just about craving money. And so tradition, heritage, legacy, gone. Out the window. Doesn't matter. There's no standard. Just like many on the right want it that way nowadays. No standards. We just oppose their standard, and then I can do whatever I want. That actually feeds the instinct of what we are up against. And so what we learned from progressive academia, human nature is not basically good. We cannot put a check and balance on our own craven desires and instincts, but we will follow them all the way to the end. And here's what the end could look like. It's on the table that you're looking at. By the time this is all said and done, maybe 40, 50 teams play college football. Right now, there's 130 that offer full ride scholarships to 85 players apiece. Let's get rid of 60 of those schools, 70 of those schools, 80 of those schools. That's how many full ride scholarships gone? And by the way, most of those full ride scholarships, are they going to white kids in the suburbs? Where are they going to?
Oh, well, much more diverse crop than that.
A lot of them are going to black folks, you know? So, don't they make up I think blacks make up like 2/3 of college football players or rosters across the country. So all those scholarships gone. And then you start slicing the scholarships at the universities that are still playing, because it's all going to be pay for play. And I'm not paying $80,000 a year for the 4th string left guard to sit on the bench. I'm not doing that. So now we're going to have like 60 scholarships instead of 85. So now even at the schools that are going to play, here's more opportunities that largely go to minorities, gone. And then women. Oh yeah, that's great. Women. Like, you're a little interested in athletic scholarship opportunities for women right now in the Urson household, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So guess what they get to do if they cut the college football scholarships down to 55 or 60? Guess what they then get to finally do?
Get rid of girls' sports.
Get rid of girls' sports now, because now Title IX is not applicable. They just get rid of basically all Olympic men's sports, get rid of them all. And then they get rid of a few of the women's sports too. They don't have to pay for those anymore because they don't need representation equalized any longer. And so now all of a sudden, because the left-wing progressive institutions really truly believed human nature was basically good, they devised a system that, get this, will actually take agency away from minorities. You know, like we've seen in every single country that has tried this level of socialistic, communistic theorem. The same thing happens every time, because they deny the nature of human nature.
Name, image, and likeness that.
Yes. Oh, but before we raise our noses on high here on our side. Oh, nope. Truth's a double-edged sword, brah. When capitalism is untethered from anything of meaning or purpose, it'll become corporatism, cronyism, and then eventually devolve into robber baronism. That's what's going on here. So, I mean, if you're a Texas fan, I hope you enjoy. I'm sure you'll enjoy the press releases of earning another 20 or 25 million a year when you already were the #1 athletic department. But that's okay, though. I'm sure you'll feel good. You won't be getting together with your friends anymore in your state who are Texas Tech and TCU fans and watch games together. You know, that whole family tradition that made this whole thing on Saturdays, this ritual, meaningful. Instead, you'll be sitting alone in your basement watching Alabama kick your ass. Going to watch that instead. But hey, It's cool. It's cool because your school got another $20, $25 million a year. So it's totally cool now that you went from ruling a power conference where all you had to do was get your stuff together and they would bend over backwards and let you win it every single year. But that's okay now, because now you're going to finish 5th. Even if you do get your stuff together, you're going to finish 4th, 5th, or 6th. So, hey, I'm sure you'll all run out and buy those T-shirts. Made another $20 million in the SEC. It just means more. You're all looking for those shirts, right?
Hook 'em horns, baby.
Yeah, hook 'em, baby. Horns down, bitches. Yeah. I mean, this is the breakdown systemically of everybody's worldview failed. Everybody's worldview failed. We talk about heritage and legacy. You know what? I'm going to tell you this. If I'm one of those black players at the University of Texas and they're telling me I got to sing the Eyes of Texas, I think the whole controversy is dumb, but just stick with me for a second. If I'm one of those black players at Texas and I'm not really comfortable singing the Eyes of Texas, which is stupid, but okay, I'll just go with it. And now you're telling me that heritage, you told me I had to go out there and sing it this fall because of heritage and legacy and tradition, right? Except now you're telling me heritage, tradition, and legacy doesn't matter. And guess what? I don't want to sing your silly song now. Oh, and by the way, pay my ass. Right?
Right. Because
if it's all just about me, then man, I got a lot more of the media on my side than you whiteys and the coaching staff and at academia do. So let's make it. Let's go ahead then and let's make it about me. How about that? How about you? How you like them apples? Let's make it about me then. Everybody's worldview here collapsed. Everybody's did. Because there was nothing undergirding either. It's easy to see why progressive utopian academia's worldview collapsed. It's built on a house of sand from the very first step. Human nature is not basically good. So it was always going to fail. It fails every time we've tried it. But on the other side, history, tradition, legacy, when not tethered to anything, it collapses too. And instead, what happens is college football now becomes the Hegelian dialectic. The thesis and the antithesis, they've now merged into one. You can't tell the difference between the history, tradition, and legacy of the meritocracy that no longer exists and the utopian progressive ideologies of the ivory towers. It's just all one. That's all that it is. And this is a cautionary tale. This idea that we're going to have conservative trannies, we're going to have conservative vegans. That one's really bad. That we're going to have, you guys get where I'm going. That's a joke, okay? But as long as you join me in opposing the communism, the system, the statism, it doesn't matter what else you believe, then we can just go for no. Eventually, someone's belief system's going to rule. Eventually. You can join with people of other belief systems to defeat a common foe, but when that foe is defeated, then what happens? I'm all for strategic alliances, but don't lose your soul in the process. To the point that you start promoting the very value system, just a different, shall we say, variant of the value system you're against. Everybody, each side, everybody's worldview collapsed. And that's what we're heading for in our country. Without a recovery, a proper catechesis of what it means when your rights come from God, without a proper understanding of what human nature is, what freedom and liberty, those words mean and what they don't, eventually we are just given over to our own desires. So for you Texas fans, I hope the extra $20 million or so your athletic department will rake in that it doesn't need with a track and field system at that school better than hell half of Division I's football stadiums. I hope you enjoy that money as they continue to jack ticket prices up on you to now finish 5th, 6th, and 7th in the SEC every year. I hope you enjoy it. Hope it was worth it to you.